Hello, and welcome back to the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. Hey, beautiful, how are you doing?
Cece, lovely to see you. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am doing good. It has been kind of a whirlwind the past few weeks, and the holidays just only add to that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Just can't believe how quickly time is flying by.
Yeah, I know. How's it even the end of the year? Like this year has flown by so fast. I remember
Right?
thinking about my rebrand this time last year and doing all that deep thinking and strategy and research. I can't believe it's been a year. It's mad.
Wow, wow, oh my gosh. And what a year it's been for you with the rebrand and all the great work that you've been doing, not to mention all the growth that you've had from
Mm.
doing speaking engagements and your mentoring relationships. I mean, wow, really great stuff there.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know, I've been doing some thinking. So right now we're well into the holiday season, and for many of us, it's a great time to pause and reflect on how the year went.
Hmm.
And I have to be honest, this was never something I really did before. And of
Right.
course, right, I didn't have a mentor or anyone to tell me why it was so important to do that.
Mm.
And, as each year passes, I feel more determined to make each year better than the one before. So that really means for me doing things that I wouldn't normally do, thinking about stretching myself and how I'm going to grow. But I also wanted to get better at giving myself grace and to try and relax that perfectionist imposter that I can be sometimes. So for
Mm.
today, let's talk about year-end reflections. Rachel, why don't you start? What are some things that you usually reflect on at the end of the year?
Well, like you, I never used to reflect much on what had happened in the year, more on still what I kind of hadn't achieved, like you know,
Right.
that kind of, oh, I'm a failure, like, that negative kind of stuff
Right.
that you get. But
Right.
but a few years ago, like especially when I started this, the coaching journey and the business journey that I'm on, I flipped that around and I began to look at my achievements so that I could have a bit more of a positive kind of approach to that reflection. I'm like less of like, oh, what haven't I done? And more like, oh, hang on, what have I done? What are the
Right.
amazing things that I have done? And as you say, you kind of I've got to kind of consider getting more out of my time and worrying about less about how much I've wasted it, more about what have I done with my time and like what
Right.
I haven't done, right? So there's been a bit of exponential growth this year for me, like you mentioned some of the stuff before. So obviously I did that rebrand this time last year and I launched it at the start of this year. That was a huge shift for me because previously, I felt like I'd been hiding behind, like lurking in the background of my business. So I
Mm,
really wanted to be bolder and braver, and that hasn't just reflected in the rebrand look and feel, but also like how I've shown up and in my values too. And
mm,
that's kind of really it's really been a big push this year. I've
right.
invested heavily in my development and growth. I've engaged with two very high level business coaches, one of whom is a multi nine-figure entrepreneur. So just being in their orbit and their communities alone expands your world and your mind. And don't underestimate it. I've spent a lot of money on this, but I also see the absolute
Right.
value in that investment. So that's something that's been a big push for me. And that has
Right.
really leveled me up quite a lot. Um,
Right.
Also learned how to do marketing and content creation, like with one of the best there is, working with them and their copywriting team to really craft that skill. Because one of the things that was holding me back was like I had this limiting belief of, I don't know how to write. I
Right.
can't write. Yeah. So like I
Yeah.
had to really get through that. And so like just even knowing that I had that belief and then taking action to get myself, the right people, the right tools, the right skills so that I can like change that, right? So now I feel way more confident about how to write, what to write, so that's stopped being a block for me. I also invested in speaking and mentorship. I developed my
Oh,
own disruptive idea, Brave Mind. I've developed a program and a workshop off the back of that which I've recently delivered to three companies as well. So, all of this is massive amount of leveling up. And yeah, I've put a lot of energy, time, effort, and money into it. I joined a
Mhm.
mentor group. I've mentored over 30 people alone this year. I mean, we launched
Wow.
this podcast, right? Which was a
Woo-hoo.
major learning curve, I think, for both of us, and a big contributor to the
Yes,
growth, not only in my speaking skills, but also my confidence, I've learned so much from you as well. I mean, I always enjoy our catch ups. You're so intelligent and you're so smart at what you do. And I just always learning from you, always, always, always. And I think we just have this wonderful connection. So it's been a real highlight
I
for
agree,
what we've created this year.
for
Um,
sure.
I spent time with my family, which went well. I've closed doors on some negative relationships by, either resolving them or saying goodbye to them.
Right.
Traveled to LA, attended the biggest, most glitziest, most amazing event of my entire life. Mega success. It was huge. Definitely going to go again next year. And also, like, just with that confidence piece, I've really found a love of networking and creating that
Right.
relational capital through the means of networking. So, connecting with so many wonderful people I would never have met if I'd stayed in a 9 to 5. So,
Right.
everything that I've done this year has pushed me to the edge of my comfort zone and beyond. No doubt about that. But you don't grow unless you do push yourself. And the benefit of that is that you develop confidence, new
Mhm.
skills, new connections, more opportunities. And
Yep.
I've done all of that in bucket loads. So it's been a massive year. Massive. What about you, CC?
Well, my head is still spinning from everything that you've just
No,
outlined. I
it
mean,
was a
damn,
lot.
Rachel, you
Yeah.
have been a busy, busy girl.
Yeah.
Lots of things to celebrate there, and I'm so impressed. You have my pride and my admiration. I'm so proud of you for having the courage and positive mindset to do it all and to embrace all that came with it. It doesn't escape me how much work that requires and how
Mhm.
much of putting yourself in vulnerable situations that requires. So again, I well done, Rachel. I can't see what you have to unleash in 2025, but we'll get more to that later on.
Yeah.
All right, as for me, gosh, let's see. Okay, well, when I think about reflecting about the year that is coming very quickly to an end,
Mm.
here's how I'm thinking about it.
Right.
I pause and think about what I was truly grateful for that happened this year, and I start naming them one by one.
Mm.
And I do try to be grateful every day for something. I don't know if you remember this. I think I
Mm.
talked about it on one of our previous episodes. I believe actually when we had Rochelle Gapere on a few
Yeah.
months back. But earlier in the year, I started this new alarm on my phone that would go off at 7 a.m. And the title of the alarm is Something Amazing is Going to Happen Today. And I was just building that practice of now looking for all the amazing things that happened in that day. And it
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, I won the lottery that day or I got a new car. It was what some would say, like, those are the big things, right? But for
Mm.
me, it was just about what are the simple things that actually made me really happy, that I'm grateful for. And that
Mhm.
practice actually led to me feeling more and more happy every day. So now thinking about this past year and considering that I've been doing this gratitude practice for nearly a year now, here's
Yeah.
what I would say I'm truly proud of.
Okay.
One, and you just mentioned it, launching this podcast with you. I share your sentiment immensely. I remember thinking about it for so long. And then when you came into my life and the connection we had was truly authentic and amazing. I
Mm.
remember just even from our first interaction, our first conversation in New York, and walking away feeling like, damn, I need to figure out how I can work with that girl. I mean, she is impressive, you know, and the fact that we have been so dedicated to this and all of the learnings and the conversations, the people we've been had the privilege to be joined by, the perspective that's come out of it, I'm truly blown away by this whole experience. I've learned a lot about growth and development and actually myself. And thanks to you, I've started to look at things differently and certainly with more of a marketing eye because you've been giving me that nudge and encouraging me to take that leap of, writing content more. So I definitely appreciate all the loving nudges that you've carefully given me. I'm also really grateful for the work that I've done this year in this field of leadership development. I am beyond thankful that my learners have trusted me enough and that they've had such an amazing developmental experience from all the work that I do and professional growth. And, many of them have said that they've truly transformed because of me. I mean, wow, I can't think of a better testament
Yeah.
to success than that.
Yeah.
And, when I think about professional development and growth, I'm also remembering, just a few months back, I had the opportunity to attend this large scale marketing conference.
Mm.
Now, for those of you listening who have been listening for a while, you might know that I am not in marketing. I am in leadership development. So going into this massive 13,000 attendee conference as a non-marketing person is no short of, overwhelming. I
Mm.
remember walking in and thinking, my God, what am I doing here? I don't know the language. I don't know what the trends are, but I went into it with an open mind of let me see who I can meet and what I can learn. And
Mm.
man, did I meet a lot of people and did I learn a lot? You talked about the networking earlier, Rachel. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I networked the crap out of that conference and I'm so much better for it. So listen, that is not something I would have normally done. I would
Yeah.
never have normally gone to a conference I know absolutely nothing about, but I went into it with an open mind. And this is all part of me trying new things, like putting
Mm.
myself out of my comfort zone. So I really had such an amazing experience. I'm actually quite proud of myself that I went through with it and I did attend. So it was
Yep.
definitely a highlight for me. I've also had some pretty amazing opportunities to speak on topics that really mean a lot, like addressing imposter syndrome for one, and aligning your values and your strengths and your passions to your career. I think that is actually going to be a signature topic for me since I talk about it a lot and almost
Mhm.
everyone who I've, mentored or coached or, interacted with, I've talked about it with. So this particular group that I'm remembering, they represented youth from all different backgrounds, and I was really humbled that I was invited to speak with them about that topic. And we don't spend enough time talking about that. I mean, when I was early in my career, no one ever said,
Yeah.
hey, you think about a fulfilling career, you
Mm.
need to think about it from this lens. Consider how you
Mm.
can align your values, your strengths, your passions. I never heard that before. And
No.
that was just something I came up later in life when I finally figured out that secret algorithm to finding career happiness.
I love
Yeah,
that.
right? Like that algorithm to career happiness. I need to brand that.
You
Um,
do.
I'm also
It's good
really,
marketing lens.
there we go. See, Rachel, that's you talking. That's the Rachel influence. I'm really just so grateful for the opportunities I've had, to travel internationally and domestically. We went to Dubai a few months ago as a family, and my kids loved it. It was the first time that they were there in the Middle East, but not for me. We had a lot of really great experiences, and we even did high tea at the Burj Al Arab, which is the world's only seven-star hotel.
I've done that
And
too. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
it's so amazing. I mean, the gold cappuccino is very impressive. I felt really bougie drinking that gold cappuccino sitting in that lobby. It was like,
Yeah, for
wow.
sure.
And also just maybe besides the Middle East, just traveling, to see family and friends so many times this year. It actually just made me so much better being surrounded by people that I love who love me unconditionally. And I think spending time with your family and the people who support you is so important, really, just also from a mental health perspective.
Mm.
We spend so much time working. We need that downtime to be also poured into as we're pouring out for others.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm really actually most grateful for and actually proud of myself for is for giving myself more grace.
Hmm.
I am the typical perfectionist.
Yeah.
The perfect home, looking put together, making sure everything is hyper organized, down to the littlest, most minute of details. I didn't realize how exhausting that was. And I've been that way pretty much my entire life. I don't think I intentionally set out to be less of that this year, but throughout the year, I've started letting go of that having to be perfect all the time and it's really freeing. It's
Mhm.
actually made me feel a bit more relaxed, which has just led me to be more happier and really just find more peace, which is something I want more of, especially as I not get older, but just get more experienced over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, awesome stuff that you've done this year. Like, you really should be proud of yourself. And I love that last bit about letting go of that perfectionist stuff. Like, the freedom that comes with caring less is just incredible. And
Right,
for me, I experienced that probably about 4 years ago, and it just, I don't know, it just makes room for so many more wonderful things to happen. And when we
right.
stop holding on to old baggage, or that kind of the stuff that weighs us down, then so much
Mhm.
more can happen for us because we create that space, that energy. So I'm really excited for you. Like, we've really just had incredible years, haven't we, both of us? And it doesn't come without its ups and downs, of course. There's always
Of
like
course.
black and white, light and dark. But ultimately, I think we've both just done really well.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Also, look, if we're not reflecting, how are we going to move forward? Like,
Mm,
when you talk about that freedom and creating
mm,
the space for something else, that's exactly what it does. It creates the space for that reflection to enter and then to
mhm,
think about what else am I going to use that space for? Like all
mm.
the possibilities, the world is open to your creativity and your brave mind, as you say, right?
Yeah. Mm.
So, yeah, I think that's definitely tracking for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have talked a lot about our reflections and all the things that we're so happy and proud of that have happened this past year. But let's take a few minutes to guide our listeners to think about how they're going to take stock and reflect about their year.
Mm,
All right. Well, reflecting about your journey is definitely a personal experience. Again, it's not something that I was used to doing. And I think it's really hard, especially when you're, scrolling on social media and looking at how other people are spending their year from traveling the world to maybe shopping, dining out, getting promotions, all of those things. I've also learned that despite what you see on social, you don't know what demons and scars others are carrying behind all those forward, happy looking posts. So
mm.
avoid the tendency to look online and fall
Curated.
into compare and despair,
Yeah,
right?
that curated life that people put online. Like, we all do it, but it's not
Yeah,
real.
we all do.
Mm,
It's not the full picture, right?
mm,
So try thinking about what made you happy, proud, or even the moments where you felt really just super immensely proud of yourself. Like, what are you really most grateful for? And when I'm reflecting, I like to get really into it. For me, that means going to a place where my family can't bother me. It might not sound sexy, but I like to go to my local bookstore, get a hot latte, find a cozy corner, throw on the earbuds, fire up the laptop, and everything else just sort of fades away into the background. So I feel like when I do that, I not only am being incredibly reflective, but also insanely productive. So
mm,
writing, content creation, that's where I kind of like to do it all. And
mm.
it's my time, right? I drove all the way there. I'm going to make the most out of the time that I've blocked away, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like doing that, I'm also finally prioritizing myself, which again, I don't do very often. And I think it's okay to be selfish and take care of yourself. And I think, especially as women, we tend to take care of everyone else. We don't even make the list. Like our names are never even there. We're just so busy making sure everyone is fed and driven and supported and nurtured. And my God,
Mm.
Rachel, I'm exhausted just saying that.
Yeah, I'm just when what you just said there about like going to a cozy corner in a cafe and like not being sexy. Does it need to be sexy? I think that would be weird if reflection was
I mean,
sexy.
that's maybe sexy wasn't the right word.
What's happening here?
Maybe it's not cool to go to your local bookstore.
Okay. All
Like
right.
it's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
I'm not taking a private jet and going
No.
and lying at the beach and
Okay.
tea.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would
yeah.
be sexy. But going to
Yeah.
a bookstore may not be
Bougie.
cool.
Yeah.
Bougie for everyone. That's
Yeah.
what I
Well, yeah, cool. I get it. I think it's important as part of this reflection piece to also notice like what worked and what didn't, because we don't want to be repeating mistakes that keep us stuck.
right.
You know, it's not really about beating ourselves up, like I was talking about before, that negativity thing. It's not about like what we haven't done. It's more like, let's have a look at what worked and what didn't, so that we can change those behaviors, those situations, and make things work for us, right? Because at the end
Right,
of the day, like, time is something we cannot get back, right? So it's really important to use it wisely and effectively. So, reflecting on the good and the achievements is all great, but also, what shifts and pivots can you strategically make to get more out of your life and reach, your version of success quicker? After all,
right.
right, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different
Yes.
result. So look for
Yep.
places where you felt stuck, notice any patterns of behaviors, and look for something that you can shift to create a new result. Like, we all have them. We'll get
Mhm.
into like the groove of doing the same thing, thinking, it's going to work eventually. But like, actually, maybe it's not. Maybe you actually need to go,
Right,
is this working? Why isn't it? What else can I do? Now, that doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be something really simple and small, but that can have
right.
a massive impact on the overall outcome. So it's good to kind of look at that too, as well as like what we've done, what we've achieved, and how great we are. Like,
Totally. Yeah,
wherever
I
we
think if you're
can.
not reflecting on what could be even better, then
Mm,
you're not growing. Like that's part of a growth mindset, like being curious about, okay, well, I had, I don't know, this scenario and this is what the outcome was. What could I have done to make it better? So even
yeah,
just the way that you're approaching situations, approaching career decisions, personal life decisions, whatever it is, looking at it with the lens of curiosity and what could I get out of this to
yeah,
make the next step or the next decision or the next choice even that much better. So I think
yeah.
that's definitely a piece you cannot ignore.
No, no. I mean, and
Um,
that helps us to identify where we do need to continue to learn and grow,
right.
what areas where we have the gaps, what that habit or that thing is that we can break or change to create that area for expansion, as you're saying, like that growth mindset, being curious. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, when you take the time to reflect, it also helps you get clear about what you want in life. Going
Hmm.
back to what you said, the time we have here is actually borrowed time. Like the
Mm.
time is just, it's tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and
Finite,
when
yeah.
you've especially suffered, losses. I lost my mother almost a year and a half ago. You definitely realize the true value of time. And that was something she talked a lot about, like this time on that we have here on earth. It is when you blink, it's all over. And then you take nothing with you,
Yeah.
to your next destination. So what are you really going to do here that is going to be fulfilling and meaningful
Hmm.
that when you leave here, you can leave peacefully, knowing that you spent your time here to the fullest and
Yeah.
you've done it all, right? So I
Hmm.
think when you have the time to when you do actually proactively reflect, it helps you get really clear. And we've said this so many times, but I'll say it
Hmm.
again.
Mm.
It comes back to your values. Your
Yeah.
values is your compass that guides the decisions you make every day, and even with the lens in which you look through things, right?
Mm.
So when you take that time to reflect, let your values guide you to gain clarity. It'll, like I said, serve as your compass. Think about your dreams and then add deadlines to those dreams to turn them into goals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We love the values piece here on this podcast. And as a framework, your core values should be at the heart of everything you do and the decisions that you make. So,
Mhm.
that's a really important piece.
Yeah. All right. And if you've never really done a year-end inventory of what you are most proud of, let this be the year that you start, and it'll be your benchmark year. And I'm telling you, I can't wait for all of you to start sharing with us how those lists get bigger and better every single year. So, wherever you are in your career journey, our hope is that you can take away these insights from this episode. Reflecting is personal. Avoid that tendency to compare your 2024 to someone else's. Don't fall into compare and despair.
Mm.
Let your values be the compass for your goals, which are your dreams with deadlines. Think of it that way.
Yeah. And remember to reflect on what worked and what didn't so you can create seismic change with small shifts. And also that time is precious, so use it wisely. As my coach says, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So if things are working, reflect on why and what you can do. Things aren't working, sorry, reflect on why and what you can do to change that in the coming year, and if you need help with that through coaching, we're here for you.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. If we can leave you with one thought, what are you going to do to reflect on how 2024 went for you?